Hi guys, Tarke here, and yes, the quality will still be kind of iffy with the graphics. I haven't got the new graphics card yet, bear with me, the streaming will be coming soon. But in the meantime, I thought I'd give you guys an update on my new build, because if you remember from the last video I did, I wasn't too happy with the whole Zoth's Nurture, Burning Arrow, Prolif thing. Basically, and I still think the same thing now, that build needs to be a Inquisitor, has amazing clear speed, you can do all sorts of cool things with it. If you're not going to go Inquisitor, you need to be going non-crit, stacking the hell out of Ignite Chance, playing it kind of like Explosive Arrow. I know Mathel is currently playing around with that build apparently, according to a friend of mine, so I'll see what Mathel comes up with and I might revisit that build later. Most likely crit still, but anyway. So this is my new character, and before we get too much into the details of this new character, I want all of you to go out and buy one item. This, for hardcore play and for softcore sure, is one of the most powerful items I've seen introduced game in for a very, very long time, and it is only 1 to 2 chaos. And now that I've said that, I've ruined this item. The Snowblind Grace Coronal Leather. You can equip level 49. Gives you flat dexterity, which is nice. A lot of builds struggle with dex early on. Obviously, if you're doing this on a ranger, not so much, but whatever. Increased evasion percent, flat life, spell dodge, always good. Increased Arctic armor, good. Evasion rating is increased by uncapped cold res. Basically what that means is it's increased by your cold res. I have 149% cold res. This increases my evasion by 149%. So with Grace on at level 80, haven't really got that much evasion stacking going on. Whatever. 9.6k. Oh look, we now have slightly more than 9.6k. While leveling, you equip this at like level 49 and you're just instantly wearing like a 3 or 4k evasion chest with all this extra benefit. If you were to go really crazy with it, this is like a very easy way to make evasion OP. This is one of the new breach items, so it can be upgraded into a version which gives you phase acro and so on and so forth, but basically this is a very cheap, very powerful item for leveling and for general endgame mapping. Even unupgraded, this is an incredibly powerful item, as you can see. So, what is this build? It is an assassin, as you can see, using Iron Commander, and I summon Siege Ballistas in all of 2 FPS. Now, basically, the idea of this build is we crit stuff a lot. Crits are good, bleeds, poisons, added flat chaos, stuff dies. The way that Iron Commander works is it has just a whatever base bow. You can put level 32, pretty good for leveling. Increased totem placement speed, obviously nice, means you can place your totems faster. You can have 1 additional Siege Ballista per 200 dexterity. I only have 645, meaning I can have 4, the 1 base, and then I get 3 additional. And it adds some flat fizz to attacks per 25 dex. Now, you go, okay, well, seems okay, but why not use Doom Fletch or whatever? When you use the upgraded version of this chest, which gives 5 to 10% dexterity, you stack loads of flat dex everywhere, and you suddenly have, you know, upwards of 800 dex. I'm aiming for 800 dex. I feel like 5 totems is enough. I've seen people do these builds reaching 1200, even 1400 dexterity. So if you want to, you can go really insane with it. But basically, before we go into the real build details, summon a bunch of totems. Totems kill everything. We're cool. It currently has a rather meaningless tooltip of 6.4k. This is at level 80. Really, you just want to look at the added chaos damage thing, nothing else. And with the way that stuff double dips and the way that poison works, this is good. So without further ado, let's jump into the skill tree and I'll sort of explain the build a bit. Now, what I wanted was a build that was tanky and was safe. You would say, well, those are the same things, yes and no in Breach League. Now, with my last build, it cleared very efficiently, was bad at single target because I didn't work out the elemental resistance thing, but it just wasn't safe. Nothing about it felt very safe, and the reason being is, right side of the tree has like 170, 180% life once you've picked everything up. Yeah, okay, you have dodge, and the way that Breach works is you just get surrounded by a bunch of mobs, and it doesn't matter if you're dodging, you just get stuck because you get surrounded so much. So my solution to that was have a lot of life, for one, but also have loads of totems. Totems are one of the strongest mechanics in Breach because with the Breach spawns, you stand in the middle, you drop like 5 totems, you float around, running around, clicking up all the hands, the basically chest things that spawn. The mobs are busy fighting other things. If they ever do hit you, you have so much evasion that you dodge, evade, whatever. You have Arctic Armor, you're chilling everything, you're blinding, you're basalting, whatever. You're just not getting hit that often, and when you do, you're not getting one shot because you have so much flat life. So this is what I would consider a tanky build and a safe build, because I can off-screen things very far away. I can just drop totems, hide around corners. If there's a particularly rippy breach, I can drop on my totems, run way outside of the breach area, and just refresh my totems inside the area, and that is safe. So that's what I mean by the difference between a safe and a tanky build. Now you look at it and you go, okay, Tarke, that's a lot of life, but you know, these are a lot of points. This is basically the outline of this is everything I want in this tree. Obviously, okay, pick up some 2-point jewels, 3-point jewels with some progenodes. But this is kind of like the base, this is everything, and I need to test what is and isn't worth taking. So for example, while leveling, I found that the Noxious Strike, which is the reason why we've got an assassin in the first place, chance cause bleed on hit with attacks. This works with our totems, so when our totems attack, it has a chance to cause a bleed. 40% chance to poison on hit against bleeding enemies. So we drop a bunch of totems, because there's so many totems, and they all shoot everything. Then everything becomes bleeding, stuff starts getting poisoned, stuff starts getting maimed, that's then a slow, and again this whole safety thing comes up, blah 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 blah, and we get increased skill effect duration if you've killed a maimed enemy recently. Skill effect duration is very good because it affects poison, so that makes our poisons better. I believe it also affects totem duration, but don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure. And stuff like Immortal Cool, Arctic Armor, Chilling, all that cool stuff gets affected by that, so that's really cool. You then get this, which is less damage taken over time, always kind of helpful. 20% of Fizz gained is extra chaos, obviously pretty good. And poison you inflict with cross strike, so 100% more, bleed you inflict 100% more. So basically lots and lots of damage. Originally I wanted to do the whole Deadly Infusion power charge route. I've actually dropped that and done Assassinate. The reason being, with totem builds, it's very awkward to generate both power and frenzy charges. Most people use the southbound gloves, which the gloves are you can only kill frozen enemies. This goes onto your totems, and then your totems kill stuff with the degen, but the degen counts as being you. So for example, in this case, someone's spamming me probably to buy an item or whatever, but we'll ignore that for now. Sorry person trying to buy my stuff. If my totems, let's have the gloves equipped, I can only kill frozen enemies. My totems can only kill frozen enemies. My totem puts length to 1, the poison then kills it, because the poison counts as me. If I was running Blood Rage, I would then gain a Frenzy Charge. So you go, okay, well Tarke, that sounds pretty clear, why didn't you just run that? Well, I was considering it, but then it's limiting your glove options. This is bad for many reasons. The way that this build works about stacking as much dexterity as possible. To see, you know, I haven't got the optimal gear yet, I'm still leveling, I need to get better rings. But it's like, get a helmet with a lot of dex, get an amulet with a lot of dex, get boots with dex, get gloves with dex, just get a lot of dex. So if you're cutting the dex off of the gloves, it makes it much harder to reach the very high value, which isn't too good. And also it makes resist, just makes everything a lot harder. Also, ideally, you want to be using, I believe they're called the ribbed gloves, the gloves with the implicit projectile damage, because that double dips, and double dipping is good. So that's why I didn't want to use those gloves in the end. Also, it's quite easy to pick up cold damage. You have the option of running Hatred if someone in your party's freezing stuff, or you get cold, and it's just bleh. I decided it's just easier not to run the gloves. So because of that, I didn't chase the power charges. I also didn't chase the frenzy charges. You still can generate frenzy charges by doing a frenzy GMP curse on hit setup, but that's later online. So, right. That's the Ascendancy stuff sorted out why I went Assassin. For the fluff points, the points I was saying, I'm not sure whether I want to get them or not. As I was saying originally, I found those poison nodes weren't quite enough, so I then also picked up Dirty Techniques, which gives me more damage over time, more skill effect duration, more chance to poison on hit. I really did not want to use the poison gem, and I also did not want to use the chest piece, which gives poison and additional curse. I was very tempted, but then I miss out on flat decks, I miss out on the potential of using Snowblind Grace, I miss out on using the upgraded version. It's just, I don't want to do that. So, we decided to go for this. I don't need to get phase acro because I'm planning on using the upgraded chest, which gives me phase acro, so I get to save 4 points there. If, however, you decide to just continue using this base chest because it's cheaper, the difference between 1 or 2 chaos and like 50 chaos is 40 something chaos. You know, this is kind of good. You could choose to stick with these, maybe run Itziri's Step if you could cheat the deck somehow and have like spell dodge cap, still get phase aggro, but for now I'm not. This jewel here, I say this jewel here in particular, but it doesn't matter which one, is mandatory. I am running the Rain of Splinters. This does have reduced totem damage, which does unfortunately double dip, meaning it reduces our initial totem damage, then our poison damage. It scales twice. But this is reduced compared to LMP or GMP, which is less. This is the difference between like increased and more. This is the better option of the two, and it saves me a link. So I chose to use this jewel here instead of having to run LMP or GMP. Other options, you can try and corrupt the Iron Commands to get 1 additional arrow, and then also corrupt a drill neck for 1 additional arrow. Ideally you would do that, but it's very expensive. I want something cheap, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. The one other option, briefly, which I'll mention, is you could do Endless Munitions doing Deadeye shenanigans, but then you need to worry about poison, and it's like, we gain so much more multi and stuff, we make up for this tiny little reduction here. Come down through all this stuff, this is core. These flask nodes, I consider these flask nodes core in basically any build, at least Druidic Rite. Druidic Rite is one of the most underrated nodes on the entire tree. Ignore the mana. People look at it and go, ugh, mana node, bad, and then they just like discard the node. 20% increased flask charges gained, 20% increased flask effect duration. Imagine this node said 20% increased flask charges gained, you'd go, wow, that's a really good node for 1 point. And this one gave duration, you go, wow, that was a really good node for 1 point. The mana stuff is actually kind of handy. In this build, you're often spamming down ballistas. As you can see, it does sort of chunk your mana a little bit. We have enough regen that it's fine, but getting that little extra bit does help. It's just helpful. Surprising, right? Same with Primal Spirit. Primal Spirit is the weaker node. It does still give you 20% increased fast charges gained. It does give you flat strength. It does give you flat int. It does also give you a bunch of mana stuff. I like running both, but you could drop one or the other. This here, Entropy, this is purely just a DPS node. It doesn't have a mandatory tag like the crit stuff because you need to reach a certain crit threshold. Therefore, all the crit nodes are mandatory, whereas stuff like this is purely once you've filled in all your life, once you're happy with your life total, you then start getting nodes like this. So this isn't core in my opinion. Same with these 3 skill effect duration nodes. These will boost your damage quite rapidly with the way that the poison works. It will be massive quality of life with stuff like Val Haste, Immortal Cool, but it's not mandatory. So that isn't stuff you have to take. So this would be like the core, hardcore level 90 tree, where you get all of the life nodes. Now again, if you wanted to, you could cut Primal Spirit, you could pick up the 2-point Jewel, you could pick up, Entropy, for example. If you thought, well, 206% increased life is a little too much life for me, you could cut this, you could cut this. You're still looking at a very good 190 life, you've still got a jewel, you could then, decide to pick up this and this again. One thing worth noting, Fatal Toxins is a trap, do not take it, it is not worth 3 points. You go 70% damage for 3 points, that seems really good. It also gives you some quality of life with the chance of poison on hit. You kind of already have enough from Dirty Techniques, and again, this is mandatory. This patches up holes in your build. If the 10% chance was this node, I would probably take it. If it was just 1 point for that 10%, I'd maybe take it. But the problem with taking, for example, these 3, 70%, this only scales the back end of your damage. It doesn't scale the initial. I would much rather take these 2 proj nodes into a jewel or go into Ranger Start. With builds like these, you always want to go for stuff which double dips the damage. So again, you want to be going for the proj damage, which scales the initial proj, which scales your poison. Because again, if your projectile hits for 100, then your poison does damage based on that 100. If you then scale up to 200, it does it based off the 200, and then the poison gets scaled again, and that's why we say double dipping. But anyway, yeah. Basically, I really, really like this build. It is tanky. And all these other things. It has the option of picking up all the frenzy charges if you can be bothered to keep up all of the frenzy charges with the curse setup. Personally, while it's worthwhile, you need certain links. So for example, just to cover my links quickly, for curses the way I'm doing it is Splitter, Chain, Curse on Hit, Temp Chains. If I had a 5-link, I would be running Frenzy GMP. It's very, very important to run Chain. The thing which is also why you can fit so much life into this tree, the Siege Ballista have inbuilt 100% Pierce. So you don't need to pick up the Pierce nodes. Because of that, unfortunately, it means for our Curse on Hit setup, that doesn't have Pierce. And it's very important that you link it with Chain because of the way that Breach works. There are just so many mobs on the screen that if you're attacking without Chain, you're going to hit like 3. And it's nothing. You need the Chain so everything gets covered. That's why I'm using Split Arrow for now. If I had a second 5-link in my chest, as I said, I would use the Frenzy Charges. It would just give me some passive, more multi, some more attack speed, both of which is very good with Siege Ballista. Stacking attack speed is one of the best quality of lives for your Ballista. It makes the AI smarter and it ramps up the poison faster, so it's just a huge DPS boost. For the actual bow itself, increased crit strikes, added chaos, Siege Ballista, faster attacks as your 4-link. Then for the 5-link, put in slow approach. For the 6-link, I haven't tested it. You could just run Pierce for a more multi. You could run added fire, but we're not running Wed, so on and so forth. If I was to change my aura setup, you could potentially do stuff like Hatred or Wrath, then maybe stuff like Wed, added fire becomes better. I'd need to test it. So yeah, you'd probably run some sort of added, but Pierce is probably just the best because it is a more multiplier on the 6-link. My links in general are kind of all over the place. I haven't really focused on optimizing them too much. Cast and damage taken, I like having it at level 7 for these kind of builds. Generally, if you get it for 1k, that's when you want it to trigger. Immortal Call, Summon Ice Golem. This should be increased duration, but getting 3 red on an off helm is awkward. One note I will say for Star Conjurer's Head, this is actually a really nice helm for this build. But the other obvious option when it comes to uniques would be running something like the Mercury Boots helm, which the name escapes me on, which gives you the movement speed. 10% reduced fizz damage, they give a bunch of attack speed, they give you movement speed, they have the wings on the helm. It'll come to me. Anyway, the reason why I like this is it gives a bunch of flat decks, it gives you attack speed, it gives you global crit chance, and it gives you a lot of flat life. It gives you increased global evasion when on low life, the reduced damage when on low life. It doesn't matter too much, you pop 1 flask instantly for life again, who cares, right? I prefer running a rare to running Ascendancy. You go, well, Ascendancy gives you like 100 or 120 all stat. This neck gives me 80 something dexterity, it gives me crit, and I crafted shitty life on it. If you had a perfect rare, it would be something like a bunch of all stats, life, global crit, and then you use the Elrion Mastercraft to add flat chaos damage. That's the key to all of these things. You want to be using rare jewelry throughout, so you can add the added chaos Mastercraft. That is huge. If any of you guys remember my old Barrage build, the thing which made that work is just getting as much added chaos as possible. Get that on all of your jewelry, get a bunch of crit, and you're pop champing. Same again with this ring. You might recognize these rings. I stole them off my other characters to get my resist up. Drill neck is the go-to. There is the option of the skirmish bow, and I recommend using the skirmish bow while leveling. It's the level 18 quiver, I believe, which has int mana. You can have 1 additional totem. Basically, while leveling, you get an additional Siege Ballista. Drill neck, however, gives you a bunch of damage. The damage is really nice. It also gives you life. It gives you attack speed. Gives you some flat fizz. It's just an overpowered quiver, which only costs like 10 chaos. You'd be stupid not to use it. And this damage is better than having 1 additional totem, which does less, in my opinion. Boots, again, just get a decent rare. I just went for stuff which caps my resists, but get the flat decks. I think another trick with these builds is instead of going, oh, how many ballistas can I get, which I think most people do, when most people theorycraft this, they go, look at my amazing Siege Ballista build, it has like 12 or 15 totems. You go, Okay, cool, but do they do anything? No, not really. Also, you then have to stand there and hardcast like 15 totems, which is kind of annoying. You then start really suddenly needing totem placement speed. You then need to get the Helm enchant. You then need to start altering the tree to pick up totemic mastery. I think it's easy just to focus on having a very strong 4 or 5, as I said. I think 800 is the sweet spot that I'm aiming for. And with that, you can still have powerful gear. You don't need to gimp yourself too hard to go above it. But yeah, that's basically the build in action. One other thing I will mention for flask usage, there are some particularly powerful flasks for this build. The Sin's Rebirth Stibnite flask, which I wish I'd bought 1,000,000 of. Basically, it's one of the new flasks added in Breach, which gives you Unholy Might. Unholy Might is just you gain a bunch of fizz as added chaos. It's ridiculous. At the start of the league, they only cost something like 20-30 chaos, and I was looking at them going, wow, that seemed really cheap. That is a ridiculously powerful flask. I guess they're really common. And I didn't buy them because I was playing my stupid Burning Area build, which was all fire conversion. I was going, oh, I should probably buy one of those. I thought, no, let's just get my bow. Now they're like 120 chaos, so I'm guessing someone streams with them. But those are OP. It's Zeri's Promise, really good. But anything which gives you chaos is good. But yeah, this is the build that I'm playing at the moment. I will keep making little updatey videos. Graphics card has not been ordered yet, and an update for it. So the warranty people said they won't cover my old graphics card, but they will credit me some money. So I'm waiting for that to go through. Then I'm going to order a new one, and I'm pretty sure I'm going for a 1070. So yeah, if anyone does have any graphics card advice, if you were to reply in the next day or two before I get stuff ordered, maybe I'll take it into account. And, oh, quitting, you're a bro. I'm just going to leave it at that. Yeah, see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye-bye.